Hey there, and welcome to your GG replay for Wednesday, August 4th, 2021. GG Replay is a gaming news breakdown Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We break down the latest in gaming news, hosted by the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for goofs. Still working on the slogan, but you know what? We're getting there. Matt, I'm Paul. Also, just so we all know, I'm not telling you, I'm telling the audience. Matt, you are Matt. How are you doing today? How does it feel to be a groof?
I'm good, Paul. Every day that you can be a groof is a good one.
It is.
I have a quick update. Remember last time I told you I was gonna move on to the Order 1886?
You said you might move on to it, right? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I did. It's a quick platinum.
You trophy hunter.
A new trophy hunter. Never used to be. Over the last like year or two, maybe. Anyway, the Order 1886. Not a good game.
It did not hold up for you after you were saying that you were wondering. I remember on Monday that you were like, I wonder if it held up.
Yeah, I'll go more into it on the Game Groofs episode this week at the water cooler. But yeah, so amazing animations, cool story, voice acting is out of this world. The actual, like, everything except the actual gameplay is really
So you were
good.
like when you said the graphics and everything, you thought they might hold up. So that stuff did
It's
hold
still
up?
one of the best looking
Yeah.
games I've
Yeah.
ever seen, if not the best, to be
I
completely
think that was
honest.
always kind of the vibe, right? Is that it was more of like a cool movie thing, interactive movie, than like
That's
an actually good game.
That's what it's really trying to be. It does the shaky cam.
Yeah.
It's got the film grain. The acting is so good. The thing is, like, it can afford to look as good as it does because the space in which you're playing is so limited.
Yeah.
So it can afford to do that. You know, it's not open world by any means. It's not even a large linear game. There's not a lot of space to go into. It's sort of a look but don't touch sort of world.
Yep.
And the gameplay is so clunky. And the gunplay is just feels like such an afterthought. It's really I'm gonna get through it because it's so short, just to get that platinum. But it is I mean, when I first played this a few years ago, it was one of the first games I played on PS4. I thought, this is amazing. I can't believe games look this good. Because of that, I guess because of the magic of that, I was able to put the other stuff to the side, and because I bought the game for like $5.
Yeah.
I
think that seems like kind of the whole jam, right? Is that they were like, you know, it's like it was a launch title kind of thing, like proof of concept.
I think it was shortly after launch.
Right. But it was meant to be like, hey, this is like buy a PS4 for this.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like part of the game of that, or like the interest of that, is that it was like, look at what you can do with the technology. Look, you can play a game that looks like this, and it's like, well, but you really can't. Like it's like, yeah, you're playing a movie, but you're not really playing. Like the gameplay isn't really done. Like we're not really at the point where you can play a game that looks this good. And it took to like something like The Last of Us or something, like we're really just now at the end of the generation getting to the point where games can look that good and be a proper game that's playable and fully fleshed out.
It's the same situation as Rise Son of Rome. It looks amazing.
I was just gonna say, same thing,
but it's filled with QuickTime events because that's all they could do to make it work, probably.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So,
they were trying to prove that you could make a game that looks that good on the new hardware, and they really couldn't do it at that point.
I mean, think about it. Like, whatever E3 it would have been, like E3 2013 or 2014, when they're showing this game, like, this is going to be on the PS4. People are like, oh my God, I can't believe how good this looks.
This isn't a cinematic. You can play that? And it's like, yeah, but it's kind of like a playable cinematic.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyway,
which is cool.
We'll talk about it more on Game Groofs, but yeah, it is. The gameplay is so disappointingly boring and clunky that it's like, it kills everything else about the game that is actually really cool. But I guess it's understandable because, like we were just saying, it's more of a showpiece, like graphically, than it is a game.
7 or 8 years old at the time. Before we get into the stories right now, I just want to remind everyone, corrections and comments for the previous show. If you come across any necessary corrections in today's episode, please send them to ggreplayshow@gmail.com or down in the YouTube comments below so we can address them in the next episode. We love getting any and all feedback, and we know we're not perfect, so we do appreciate Any constructive feedback you guys have, or destructive, bring it on, man.
Whoa.
All news is good news.
Tear
Let's
us
tear down the
down.
establishment. I don't know if we're the establishment exactly. We're not quite
No,
there yet.
we're fully independent.
We're fully independent.
When
We
we
are
s-
there for
when we
you.
sell out to Raid Shadow Legends, then we'll be established.
Oh, can only dream of that day. Right now, all we're doing is just shilling for AFK Arena, and they're not even giving us any money for it.
Yeah, not even getting that cold hard cash.
Yeah. Come on, Brutus. Where's the money? Who makes that game again? What is it? Another we should give forever free publicity, but who is it?
I think.
Yes, Lilith Games, yeah. All right, let's move on to taking down the establishment, because that is the first story of the day. Let's talk about it. We've all been talking about Activision Blizzard for like 2 weeks now. It feels like forever. And it just keeps getting worse and worse, more and more coming out, coalitions of employees, but kind of big shake-up news. Although maybe not super surprising, J. Allen Brack, president of Blizzard, pardon me, has stepped down from his position. They did not make a big deal out of it. It does seem just specifically, clearly in response to what's happening, whether or not that's like sacrificial lamb stuff. It's clearly in response to these allegations. I think it's damage control. Currently, we have Jen O'Neill and Mike Ybarra taking over as co-presidents, co-leaders right now. O'Neill joined Blizzard in January, and actually really cool. She's the former head of Vicarious Visions, which is a pretty cool studio to be coming from, which is also within an Activision Blizzard as well.
Vicarious Visions recently just was fully absorbed by Blizzard.
So they weren't before, right? Because I was confused with that. I thought that was before she joined, right? But then now it was absorbed.
So they
after the fact.
Activision
So it was a little
has
confusing.
owned Vicarious Visions, but in the last month, Vicarious Visions as a studio was absorbed into Blizzard.
I understand. Okay. And then Ybarra joined Blizzard in 2019, but was a big muckety-muck at Xbox for a while. So pretty cool. We talked about in the Groove chat this week in our kind of internal Discord. We see a lot of co-leaders nowadays, a lot of people doing job share. This happens more and more. I mean, I don't want to and this isn't my feeling, but I just want to get out ahead of it and say, I feel like this is a bit, huge damage control, not just Brack, but also the fact that they hired a job share of a man and a woman really feels like they're like, hey, look, we put a woman in charge. Right. Well, sort of. We don't want to give her the whole run of the field.
Especially since she's been there since only a few months. But
well, I think a big part of that too is like them trying to go like, look, we hired someone who's not from the old guard, right? So like you'll feel a little less like we're hiring the old school like sketchy people, right?
Sure.
Leave us alone. So that's interesting. Matt, I'll let you. I'm looking at Mike's name, Mike Ybarra, and Matt, I'll let you respond in a sec. But I just want to say also, Blizzard's head of PR, Jesse Meschuk, is also gone. HR, very different than PR. Although the head of PR probably should step down. They're doing a terrible job, but I don't know how you would do a good job in this scenario. But I'm sure you could do better than the current head of PR. But yeah, Jesse, also head of HR. Pretty tough role to be in, I think, during this, but also hard to have a lot of sympathy. I mean, you were right at the ground floor. It's a tough thing. So Jesse, head of HR, has stepped down. So we're seeing some shakeups. Whether or not these are shakeups that are really going to make a difference in the industry or in the game has yet to be seen. Go ahead. So Matt, do you have any response to these step downs?
Yeah, well, so quick note. It's worth mentioning that when Mike Morhaime was the head of Blizzard, even after the acquisitions, he was CEO and president. When it became J. Allen Brack, he was just president. Now these two people, their title is co-leader. So clearly the power from the higher ups at Blizzard are evaporating, and it really is sort of just Bobby Kotick. I think
resting on Bobby.
I think he's just trying to morph all of the studios into basically one Activision Blizzard.
I think that was a lot harder to do when we had strong leadership like Morhaime and people who had come from old school Blizzard, but now we're seeing all of them leaving. Plus, we're seeing Blizzard's clout socially kind of and like amongst gamers be kind of evaporated. It's probably a really smart move for them. I mean, corporately, to use this opportunity to kind of just make Blizzard become part of Activision and kind of evaporate their secondary status as a company.
As far as the new leaders, specifically Jen O'Neill, I don't know much about her. But as the head of Vicarious Visions, good studio, so at least she brings some sort of pedigree in that regard. After the news came out, there was a bunch of stuff circulating that Mikey Barr is actually like a hardcore WoW player. So
Hmm.
at least for the WoW side of things in this, that's probably good news. A guy who really cares about the game.
Yeah.
He does Mythic Plus stuff. He does rating, all that kind of stuff. So a guy who actually cares about the game at the head is good. Although, JL and Brack at one point at least cared about the game as well. So who knows what that actually means. I think that this is probably going to be a good thing, but Blizzard's probably going to take a different. I could see this leading Blizzard into taking a different direction with their games. I don't know what that means exactly. If it's going to be a really good thing or a bad thing for people who are at least longtime fans of Blizzard franchises, I don't know. But I do feel like that this is at least signaling that things are going to be different as far as the games go. Hopefully, things are different as far as the company goes, for sure. But I think that this is going to be a change for the games as well. Although, at the same time, it's either going to be a change of the games because of the co-leaders or because Kotick is going to step in as essentially the CEO and say, this is what I want. We know he
Yeah.
likes these annualized franchises and stuff like that. What does that mean for Blizzard franchises? I don't know. Probably not good things. What were we going to say, Paul?
I was just gonna say I think it's really early to tell exactly what's gonna shake out here. I think these are obviously rash changes made in response to allegations, in response to what's currently happening with Blizzard. I don't think these were things that were like long in the planning phase. I mean, they may have been, but it's hard to argue that they are now. It feels like they're happening out of nowhere. So it's hard to say exactly how it's going to shake out. I think we're still learning how this lawsuit's going to go, how the employees are going to react. I was going to say a couple points to this to add on to this. Not only first thing, Diablo Immortal got postponed actually today
Yeah.
until early 2022. They say to work on PVE and PvP, and I mean
Who waits 4 years for a mobile game?
you're clearly not doing that. It's clearly because who would ever want to release a game if your company is going through what it's going through. So yeah, so that's getting pushed back. So clearly we're not releasing anything right now. But also something to consider, also to mention, in response to the walkout we talked about last week, a lot of the Blizzard employees, Activision Blizzard employees who signed the open letter, were now up to like I think 2,300 signatures. A lot of these employees now have kind of mentioned that they have like a coalition of employees. They're now communicating outside of like company spaces. So it really feels at this point, regardless of what the company's doing so far, it doesn't seem like this has been enough to sway employees yet. And they are kind of with this coalition talk, kind of almost like threatening that unionization could be on the rise. And then another thing is because they're upset over Blizzard hiring this company that helped crush unions for Amazon, helped crush unions for Uber. And I think people are feeling like a lot of the employees are feeling like they're not being, if you hire a union buster in your company, it makes it feel kind of like maybe these guys are going to take advantage of you, even if you unionize or not. So yeah, currently there's still a lot of unrest with employees at Blizzard. Whether or not these change-ups are going to make a difference, too soon to tell. I don't think this is enough. I think we're going to see a lot more changes at Blizzard before the end of this. I think we're just getting started, and this story is just going to keep on rolling every week.
I think moving forward, the changes will mean less to us as consumers and more to the employees that actually work there, because the changes going forward are going to be smaller, and it's going to be changes for the employees, not for us, really. We're not going to see the effects of it necessarily, unless there's a big thing like Kotick stepping down, which, by the way, is not ever going to happen.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that could happen over this is it depends if they really go at it and there is unionization at Activision Blizzard or anything even close to that. That would shift the entire gaming industry in a huge way, or has the potential to. I mean, this is one of the biggest gaming publishers, developers in the world. Certainly this being talked about so openly is a pretty big news story. So definitely interesting to see. We're still just hearing talks about it, but I think that could affect how games come out or how crunch works or any of that kind of stuff for development. We might get less burnout, more developers staying on projects for longer. Hard to say. It's super hard to say. It's all up in the air.
Yeah, it is. One thing I want to say about Brack, I think that I'm glad he stepped down, but a large part of it for me is simply because in the 2 years that he's been at the helm, nothing good has happened with Blizzard. The games have been bad. This situation has happened. Now, I will say that because this investigation started before he was even the president, Brack is obviously not responsible for starting this culture. He definitely
Complicit,
didn't help
potentially, but
stop
yeah.
it. Or who knows? Maybe he did, and it was just such a deeply rooted problem that even he couldn't do anything. And I don't know. Anyway, the problem with Brack is that Blizzard couldn't even produce good games under his watch. So that I think that is as big of an issue here, but and that's as big of a reason why he's gone. Is what I'm saying.
There's a lot of reasons. They're not making money. And they're also like churning
I
through
don't
and
mean
harassing employees. So I mean, it's like it's
I
bad
don't
on
mean
both.
as big of an issue for like how bad it was for the
No,
employees
but
or anything.
job performance. You mean?
Exactly. That's what
I understand. From a corporate perspective, there is a lot. There's a lot riding for Brack, and I think they obviously. I mean, not to get too into it, but I'm sure Kotick cares more about Brack making shitty games and not making enough money than he cares about probably the employees. So that could be a very big reason why they asked him to step down too. It could be that. I'm not going to feel too bad for the guy. He probably got a massive golden handshake. So
probably
out the door he goes.
Probably. I'm sure.
On to the next.
I would be very surprised if we saw him at another company. I don't think it's going to be like one of these Blizzard people that leave and then go start something else. I think it's going to be Brack's going to just go retire somewhere.
100%. All right, moving on to an MMO with a little bit less of a depressing haze around it. But what's still keeping us questioning? Amazon's new MMO, New Worlds, which we've all been talking about a lot, specifically on our Goodnight Groofs stuff, because we love talking about MMOs, has been delayed. So it was initially going to come out end of August. It's now coming out September 28th. This isn't exactly a huge... I mean, it's kind of a surprise because they were just doing the closed beta. It did feel like the closed beta was pretty close to launch. It wasn't necessarily a stress test, which was kind of interesting. It was actually a beta. And there were a decent amount of issues, especially regarding optimization for machines. I mean, we saw those issues with the GTX 3080s, 3090s.
Right.
Now, obviously, it wasn't New World causing the issues, but I mean, still, we're seeing like it kind of taxing machines to the point of them having a lot of issues. It's not very optimized. So I think a lot of people were kind of thinking, it might be possible. Now, Matt, you followed New World, their development and their issues with delays perhaps in the past. Do you want to go on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so this game has been extensively delayed. I think this is the 5th delay.
Yeah.
It might even be the 6th. It's been a lot.
That's with one of the big delays being that they completely reworked the game entirely.
Right.
From PvP to PvE. So, I mean, this is a game that they're getting in there and messing with a lot.
This is the right move. It is surprising, like you said, just because it happens, after the closed beta. I figured once we got to that point, if they didn't delay the closed beta, I figured we would get the release on time at the last state.
Day one patch, maybe, or something.
But I figured if they were going to delay the game again, we would have had the closed beta delayed as well.
Yep.
But apparently, according to them, they got a lot of really good feedback during the closed beta, which is what the beta test is for. So
exactly.
If
my question is, why didn't they do this closed beta earlier? Like, I feel like this is the time you would do a stress test beta, like right before the launch. I mean, I feel like a month out,
right?
You should have been doing a much more intensive closed beta, like an open beta or something much more big. I feel like this is a lot of people's first time really getting into the game and even testing it. And this is like less than a month from release when the beta is ending.
Well, I think it's interesting. New World has followed more of a traditional MMO testing cycle. Games don't test like this anymore, but it is true that betas used to happen very close to release.
I guess I'm thinking of older betas. I remember this is like going way back, but I remember WoW beta, closed beta was like over almost a year out. You get open beta was like the last like couple months. Then they have like a couple stress test weekends the last couple months coming up to it. I mean, it was like really there's a lot of like a progressive beta system.
Well, this was essentially an open beta. I mean, if you wanted to get in, you could find a way to get in. Even not necessarily having to pay to get in. There were so many keys being given out.
Yep.
So I think the problems must have just arisen from the fact that so many people were playing. This game's been in testing for a long time. It's just so many people were playing this time. I think what's funny is that a lot of the people who have just learned about the game, probably because it was one of the top games on Twitch for the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
They probably aren't even aware of the whole history of delays for this game. So for them, this is probably like the first delay that they really know about, and they're like, "Oh, a month? Well, that sucks, but it is what it is." But yeah, this makes sense. This is the responsible thing to do. Amazon needs this game to work. Every other game that they've released has failed. Some went to release and then back to beta, and then was canceled while it was back in beta, which is crazy. I think that's Crucible's the only game I've ever seen that was released and then sent back into beta, which is insane.
Yeah, I've not seen that before.
And specifically with MMOs, you get one good first impression to make. And the only game that has ever defied that is Final Fantasy XIV. And with MMOs, that is usually not the case. You get your one first impression, your one chance at that. And if it's good, then you might have a successful game for a while. If it's bad, you might be screwed. I guess ESO defied it a little bit as well, but they never did fully recover. ESO probably could have been a much bigger game if they had ironed out a lot of the issues.
I think it's very rare that. Yeah, sorry. I think it's very rare that an MMO gets a second chance without going free to play. From a subscription or something like that. I think a lot of MMOs get a second chance, but they have to drastically change their model. And I think Final Fantasy is one of the few things I can think of that's still a subscription-based MMO that was able to get a second chance. And even them, I mean, even they, the meme, you can play Final Fantasy up to level 60 with Heaven's Ward expansion,
right.
The whole thing. So I mean, they even them, Final Fantasy 14 has to have a huge demo to really get people to grab in.
And that's true.
It's tough.
ESO's resurgence did come after they dropped the subscription and then went to buy to play with a optional subscription. So that's a good point. And I've said this many times that I think New World was going to surprise people, and it did in the beta. And I think it's going to be a healthy MMO. I think it's going to be fairly successful. It's definitely, I think, going to break into that top 4 that people like to refer to. Where it can go from there, who knows? A lot depends on what's going to happen with WoW here.
Yep, absolutely. I think so too. And how they deal with like after launch, updates. If we get a lot of, if we get a lot of, I mean, there could be expansions, things that totally change the game or change the. Right now, we might just kind of be seeing a generic kind of exploration game, but that might change, might become more themed later. I think right now they're just kind of throwing something out, seeing how it's going to work, seeing how the systems work, and then depending on how they deal with the future could really make a difference in how this game shakes out. So,
true.
Speaking of the future, we finally have some leaked PSVR specs. So we've been excited for a new next-gen PSVR that really matches the next-gen power of the PS5. And we're seeing it now via PSVR without parole. Sony held a private conference with some developers to share details on the yet-to-be-named next generation of PSVR. So here's some details. A lot of stuff we've all been dreaming of. We're talking about pretty much 4K resolution between both eyes. We're talking 4,000 by 2040. Now, each eye is going to be about 2,000 by 2040 because obviously we have kind of square vision, sort of. But this should be enough. A lot of people have been talking about this for a long time. This should hit that magic level where we don't have screen dooring. Now, I don't know if we're going to 100% get there, but this is as close as we're ever going to see so far. In addition, we're talking about HDR. We're talking OLED. So, I mean, these blacks are going to be as black as you can get, which is amazing. We're not going to see the kind of things that are going to throw our eyes off a little bit. 110-degree field of view, which is 10 more degrees than current PSVR. So we're going to get a lot of that peripheral vis in there, which we love. And some periph vis. And we have new controllers, which are going to feature touch sensors on the thumb, index finger, and middle finger. This is even more than we've seen on a lot of other controllers for VR. And can also evidently measure distance from the sensors. So this is really high-tech stuff. And for me, my first question is how the frick much is this going to cost? We're also seeing Sony wanting to feature hybrid support for the AAA games on VR as an alternative to playing on a traditional flat screen, which I think is amazing. I think we need more being able to play, Sony games on there and more games in VR. I think stuff like Skyrim VR and Fallout VR and things like that, like Bethesda was doing, is so cool. We need more AAA games in VR, even if it's just like a kind of a slightly in first-person games. I really feel like that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, so far the rumor is we're going to see some launch details early next year, which will probably be, a perfect time. We're going to see, hopefully, the chip shortage start to slow down. Then we're going to see pretty much most people who want to get a PS5 can hopefully start getting them pretty easily at that point, like even less work than it is now. So that's a good time. Matt, you own a PSVR right now. You also own a PS5. You are the target demographic for this thing. What are your thoughts besides unbridled hype, which I'm sure you have?
The number one thing I'm most excited about is the new controller.
Yeah.
If all of this is true, this is really exciting. I always thought it was weird that we were using the PlayStation Move controllers on PSVR.
Yeah.
And you could use a regular controller as well, which is obviously even less immersive. But for me, a huge thing in VR is the controllers. And I think that just adds to the immersion. It adds to the feeling of, I want the controller to feel as little like an actual controller as possible. I want it to be light, and I want it to be able to mimic my finger movements in game. The first time I ever tried VR, I don't actually even know what the platform was. It might have been Oculus, but it was...
Was it one of those ones where you're like in a mall and they were like, "Do you want to try VR?"
Yeah, it was in a Best Buy.
I did one of those.
It was in a Best Buy, and it tracked your finger movements, and I thought that was amazing. And I got PSVR. Obviously, I knew that wouldn't be the case, but I didn't quite realize how much it takes away when you don't have that. So,
like, even when you look at like the Steam Index and you look at Oculus, some of those controllers just are a little bit more, they have these kind of gestures and movements that feel just like a little bit closer.
Yeah.
I feel like.
So I think that's huge for VR. I think this is smart if they're doing this. I think you need to have a good controller system for your next gen VR. And everything else about it is awesome as well. Improved visuals, obviously highly important to virtual reality. So this is exciting. Sony, I like that Sony still cares about virtual reality. That's one thing that, like Xbox, they've got their Game Pass, they've got all their cloud stuff, but Sony's got VR. And if they can do it right and make it affordable, that's a win.
Yeah, I mean, current PSVR is not cheap, especially when it came out. I recall, I don't know if this is the case in the US, but in Canada, it was about the cost of a new PS4.
I think it was $300. I think I got it for $250,
which is high. We didn't have a lot of sales on them here, I will say. So I never really got. I didn't have a PS4 at the time when I first saw PSVR. I have one now, but I haven't gotten VR. It seems pretty cool. I mean, listen, let's be honest. This tech is expensive. I mean, other companies who are doing it for PCs are not really cheaper than that. It's definitely affordable in the space. I think it's just hard at this point still. I mean, I'm not trying to this is obviously a niche product. They know that. It's fine. I'm just saying it's hard still, I think, to make affordable sound right to the people, to like the average person, just because it's a tough sell to be like, hey, you just bought your PS5 for like $500. This is also going to be like, $400 or whatever. It's like, oh God. Right. But I think that's why it's so important to make it a really like proper experience that really feels fleshed into the whole experience. And I think that could be this when we're talking about immersive visuals, OLED, we're talking HDR, we're talking hopefully high enough resolution that you almost can't tell what you're seeing is fake. We're getting there with these visuals, and the numbers don't mean anything, but if we can really, I mean they do, but it's like the numbers sound kind of pie in the sky, but if we can actually experience that and nail that and get the right controllers and get AAA games and get a real proper big catalog on this and make it so you could play like half this, pretty much almost anything you could play on a PlayStation, you can play on PSVR and make that part of it.
That would be great.
This could be like a must have. This could like revolution. This could make, instead of you go and buy a gaming PC, you'll freaking buy a PlayStation and a PSVR if you're into VR, because it's like the best deal in VR or something. I don't know. I may be being a little bit like too excited, but I just think like this is kind of like you're saying, like in terms of affordability, be the kind of thing that might bring really good VR and good VR games to more people. So that makes me really excited because I'm a big VR head, as someone who doesn't really own VR, but I love the dream of it.
The affordability aspect is massive, because to have a computer that can run VR well, I mean, that gets really expensive. Plus, many of the headsets are expensive as well. Yeah, this is an affordable version of VR. A lot of people are just like, I already have a PlayStation. Yeah. So like I was going to have the PlayStation anyway. So now I get VR, which is whatever it ends up being, $300, even if it's up to $400, that's in the VR space, that's really affordable.
Especially when everything's being built around your VR headset, it's being like tailored to Sony's VR system, which is really cool.
Putting the next big Sony games, the next big PlayStation first party games on VR would also, like you said, be massive. Yeah, I'm excited about this. Hopefully we get a Half-Life Alyx ported.
Yeah, speaking of Half-Life Alyx, which I feel like is never going to happen, by the way, on PlayStation, but maybe.
I think it's very possible.
Really? I don't know. I feel like Valve has yet to do something like that, but maybe they might. I feel like now they're getting into hardware again. They're trying again with something like Steam Deck. I'm wondering if they're gonna port to hardware, but
put it on the fridge, Paul.
Yep.
Half-Life Alyx will come to PSVR too.
Excellent. I doubt you so strongly. I have no problem putting it on the fridge. Although Valve are the good guys of the gaming industry, I feel like, in some ways. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, I will say one last thing. Speaking of Half-Life Alyx, I saw this really cool like indie team that's working on their own VR inputs, and they have this glove where they have all these like sensors in it, and it has like tensing pulls, and it has haptic feedback, so that they've actually they've coded it to Half-Life Alyx, and you can wear the gloves with VR, and when you like grab something, it knows how big the object is in VR, and it stops your hands like when you get to the end of it, so it feels like you're gripping like a crowbar or something.
That's kind of scary.
Which is very cool. Now, obviously, I haven't tested it, and I feel like most people haven't. It's mostly their internal team saying that they've accomplished this. But they seem pretty like it's very popular, and they seem like they're catching some wind. So
you know what that reminds me of?
Pretty cool.
The paper finger traps? When I was a kid,
I definitely do.
When I was a kid, I got stuck in one of those, and it freaked me out. That feels like that. That feels like I'm just holding onto the crowbar in Half-Life Alyx, and I'm like, I can't move my hands.
Imagine you get yourself in one of those things where it's like a treadmill, like those like scoopy pads. You got the VR on, you got the gloves, you're like grabbing at stuff, and it's like stopping you. You can't get off the treadmill. You're just like moving around. You're running in circles. So crazy. I'm
scary.
I'm into it. I think I don't know if you guys have these where you are, but up here in Kanata, we have some a lot of these like VR. We have a couple like VR retail outlets opening where you can kind of like go in and rent like a VR pod. Like you can go in, it's like an arcade. You can go hang out in the VR pod and do VR, and you can use the glasses. And they started setting these up in malls, and I think that's an excellent place for VR to really take off, especially like these ones where they have like the treadmills and the crazy different things that like someone probably is going to buy a VR ready computer and $1,000 like VR treadmill thing.
Right.
But that would be a cool thing to like play for an hour at an arcade.
I've seen the ones that have the full room spatial awareness.
Yeah, those
which
are cool.
Looks awesome, and I would love to do that. But
I feel like I'm just gonna beeline right for the wall when I go to do that.
Oh, totally, absolutely.
I'll be the one guy who like knocks himself out on the wall. All right, moving on. We're talking about Gamescom 2021 opening night live. Get excited. We're all very excited. More game news. August 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Take the day off work. Feel free. It'll be. I give you permission as your boss. It will be 2 hours long and showcase. This is a cool little tagline. Showcase this holiday's biggest upcoming games and what lies beyond. This is coming from Jeff Keighley. Now he is a certified professional hype master, so I will say he's probably just hyping us up a little bit here. But I do like the terms. Just the holiday's biggest upcoming games, because it gives me that little consumer '90s nostalgia.
Yeah,
of being like, oh, the upcoming big holiday Christmas buys. I feel like there's gonna be some cool stuff. Even though we probably already know what it is, it's cool to see it again. And what lies beyond is pretty exciting. It's probably just going to be a regular, cool gaming showcase, but I like that tagline a lot. Jeff clickbaited me pretty hard on that.
Yeah.
Matt, is there anything you're expecting to see at Gamescom? I really don't have any huge expectations. I'm excited. Bring it to me.
I think it's possible that we see some more Elden Ring.
Yeah.
But I think the one guarantee is that we're going to see Kojima's Death Stranding director's cut trailer, the one that he edited himself.
Jeff Keighley's best friend, Hideo Kojima.
After that first event where we saw it revealed, I remember, he went to Twitter saying, I didn't edit this one. Do you want to see the one that I put together? So he's been working on it. He's been working hard on it. We're going to see it here. Absolutely. Best friend, BFF Jeff Keighley is going to show it here, without a doubt. What else we see, I don't know, but I'm really excited. I would love to.
Probably the Silent Hills game that Hideo Kojima will have announced by then.
We'll see, Paul. Abandoned app.
See.
The introduction in 6 days. I doubt it. There's going to be more questions than answers, but we'll see.
We're excited.
Had to mention Blue Box on the episode, of course.
We always have to mention Blue Box in the episode. I wish Hassan was giving us some money for this. I would really. I love hyping up Blue Box because it's just goofy. Yeah, so pretty cool. Check out Gamescom. We may or may not be streaming some stuff from Gamescom. Not 100% sure yet, but we are looking to hopefully do some little live events and chat with you guys. So
let us know if you'd like us to co-stream that event. Let us know.
Yeah, if you really want us to, we'll make a concerted effort to do it.
Yeah.
We'll quit our jobs. Some of us who don't have them makes it a little bit easier, but all right. Moving on, we're talking about our buddies over at Rockstar. Rockstar announced some of their sales numbers. I mean, by talking about, I mainly mean bragging about heavily. I mean, just off the top, we're talking about GTA 5. Let's talk about, let's talk about for a second Red Dead Redemption 2, because Red Dead Redemption 2, let's talk about them for a second, because this is a massively popular game. We're talking 38 million copies of RDR2, which is that's a huge success. Like for a single player game. I mean, let's be honest, they have multiplayer, but I really don't think anyone's buying it for the multiplayer. This is not GTA Online. That's massive. With the whole series at 60 million. So I mean, also pretty wild. I mean, I was okay. So I guess that's Red Dead Redemption 1 and like Red Dead Revolver. I guess they're also including probably and things like that. So pretty incredible that Redemption 2 sold. I mean, so much more than the other games. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I think that this is also the only company in the world where you can say that they sold 38 million copies of a game, and I'm going to say that I think that's probably the last time we're seeing Red Dead.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I don't think we'll see Red Dead again.
Why?
38 million is not enough for Rockstar.
Well, you know why you're saying that, Matt? I understand, because Rockstar also talked about Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, we think that game, that game probably did really well. It did so well, it sold 150 million units. I mean, is anything even close? That's insane. I mean, we regularly talk about games that sell. I mean, we're talking Breath of the Wild, other games. We're talking about games that sell like 5 million, 12 million, 20 million units, and that's like these are blockbuster games. This is insane, and you see people making caveat statements going, well, it was on 3 different generations of console and it's on PC and they've resold it 1 million times. I mean, you can make caveats all you want, but any game can do that if they want to. At the end of the day, they've sold it this many times. It's a game. It's going to come out on probably this generation of consoles too.
It is, yeah. It's been announced.
It's already been announced. Like, you know what? Good on them. I mean, I don't think there's you can only you can only make caveats for so long and before you go. Congratulations. GTA franchise in general has earned sold 350 million units, which, so I mean, GTA 5 is not sold more than the entire franchise combined or anything.
But it's close.
Damn near. When you consider how many Grand Theft Auto games have come out and how many times those broke records.
But you have to also understand that this is copies of the game sold. If you look at like what GTA 5 has made money-wise because of online and shark cards, then I'm sure it blows the rest of the franchise out of the water.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing that being one of the most profitable properties of all time.
I think it is number 1.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Red Dead. 38 million copies is amazing for Red Dead 2. It really is. I mean, those numbers are insane. The problem is you can't monetize the world of Red Dead in the same way that you can monetize the world of Grand Theft Auto. A lot of time, many, many years, and many, many dollars went into making Red Dead 2. And of course, it made a ton of money. It's not like they had a difficult time making profit on it. The problem is you could spend all those time and resources, all that time and all those resources on Grand Theft Auto. And so I think that Rockstar is pretty much going to become a Grand Theft Auto factory. I would be shocked if we saw another Red Dead unless it was some sort of weird modern take on the whole cowboy thing, which I don't see that happening. Or it could also just be
Let's get a
worked
live
into
services Grand Theft Auto game where you can go back in time with your Grand Theft Auto character into
There
a
you
Red
go.
Dead world.
There you go. I
Yes.
just, with these numbers and knowing the amount of money that Grand Theft Auto makes, I just don't. The thing is, Red Dead 2 had already been pretty well into production by the time that GTA 5 really popped off. So they were in it to win it already with that. I just don't see them putting their resources into another Red Dead game.
And it really feels like they added Red Dead Online after seeing how well GTA Online did, and then they were probably hoping, hey, I hope this hits because this is gonna because now we're in it,
Yeah.
and that's what the kind of games we want to make.
Yeah.
Look at all that. I mean, there used to be a lot of IPs at Rockstar, and at this point there are 2.
Table tennis, Paul. Table tennis.
Yeah, table tennis. Yeah, bring back Bully. But yeah, at this point there are 2. And at this and it's I think you're right. It's probably gonna be 1 unless they can find a way to really monetize Red Dead in a different way or bring it in with GTA or something. It just seems not. They seem to be really driven by profitability, and that's their prerogative. And it seems like GTA is the thing to chase.
And the thing with Red Dead 2 is it is so single player focused, and it is so much a vehicle for story. And Dan Houser's not around anymore. The guy who fought for story isn't around anymore. So, they don't have the Red Dead champion around to fight for it.
100%. I totally agree. Well, you know what? Congrats to Rockstar anyway. They've sold so many copies. I mean, not to congratulate the corporate entity, but congrats to the team and the people who founded that. It's a good feeling being able to sell so well and make a great product that everyone loves. So awesome. Speaking of making a product that everyone loves, we are trying our hardest to make a product that everyone loves here at Goodnight Groofs. We're making game Groofs. We're making this GG replay you're listening to right now, and we appreciate so much all of you listening and watching at home. Just a reminder to you that we do have a website, goodnightgroofs.com, with a blog and all of our podcasts and everything listed on there, as well as our YouTube channel. We also have a Patreon. So if you're feeling extra generous and you wouldn't mind going the extra mile, we do have a $1, $3, and $5 Patreon tier. The $3 tier will get you early access to our weekly podcast, Game Groofs, which is our all-encompassing gaming podcast. In addition, we have, other great stuff over at our Patreon for all the different tiers. And we are looking to expand all the things we add to the tiers and looking to, make it really worth your money. We just need a little bit, kind of to help us get started so that we can do more. Right now, we're already doing pretty great, and we're looking to do even more. So anything you guys could give would be so appreciated. Also, if you're happening to listen to this on a podcast app, which I'm sure a lot of you are, we're noticing more podcast subscribers. So thank you so much for subscribing or even just clicking and listening to an episode. We really appreciate it. First off, could you click that subscribe button because it makes a huge difference if you're just listening to an episode. You don't have to listen to every single one, but I think every other is pretty good in general.
I do recommend it, though.
I'd recommend it. You get the latest in gaming news. I certainly get most of my gaming news just from talking to you rather than having to do a lot of work, which is great. You do it all for me. And this show also, and just in general, if you can give us any sort of rating, most podcast apps have like a 5-star rating or a thumbs up, really helps us, especially on Apple Podcasts, because that really helps us get noticed by the general podcasting algorithm. Really, really appreciate it. We love doing the show, and we hope to do many, many more and just continue on and talking in your ear until eventually we're at the top of the charts, baby. Anything else to add, Matt?
No, I'm off to go delay New World again.
Oh my God, Jeffrey Bezos is here. Imagine if Jeffrey Bezos even knew what New World was at all. Like, I feel like he has no concept that there even is a gaming division to Amazon. Like, I feel like he just doesn't. He could not care less.
I know you're joking, but I actually have read about like direct decisions that he's made for Amazon Game Studios and stuff like that, which is wild. You would think that he would just delegate that stuff to people that he trusts, but it's weird.
What a hero. We should send that guy to space.
Yeah.
And hope he doesn't come back. I'm just kidding. That is it for GG Replay, not Game Groofs. GG Replay for Wednesday, August 4th, 2021. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll see you again on Friday for a chill, laid-back episode. We're probably going to talk about sodas and games and all your favorite stuff. Be sure to be here, and good night, Groofs.
Good luck, Jen and Mike.